Andrew from Tracy Gandu from Lifecraft Coaching works primarily with women and minority groups to uncover and transform past programming and repeated patterns so they can much more easily find their own voice, own their talent, and realize their potential. And through this, she helps them craft, hence the Lifecraft Coaching, craft their talent and realize their potential, craft a meaningful life of success, love, and the happiness that they deserve. So the wonderful thing about Tracy is that she's just transitioned from a corporate career to being a full-time transformation coach and trainer, and she's keen to share with you her speech today on playing it big, transforming for equity and inclusivity in the workplace and beyond. Tracy Gandu, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much for that lovely introduction, Andrew. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here today. I'm actually really grateful for this opportunity because, like Andrew said, I've just transitioned from full-time employee in a workplace to coach full-time, to doing my passion, living my passion, something I truly, truly love. So I feel blessed. So thank you. And as you can probably tell, I'm originally from the UK. So that's my background, kind of. But obviously there's more to it than that, looking at me. I've got an Irish mother and a Nigerian father, and that's where I get my lovely complexion from. And I spent the last, say, 15 years working in medical research, in project management, in people management, and I come from a scientific background as well. So that's how I started. And how I got into personal development was when I got to a point in my career where I paid the price of people pleasing. I paid the price of being a workaholic. I was paying the price dearly, and I was very unhappy and I was very stressed, and that started to affect my health. And then I started to look and see what was going on and how I ended up in this position, and started to look into personal development. And that was probably about 10 years ago when I started this journey. And this topic is close to my heart because I am really passionate about equality, because I know firsthand what it's like to be discriminated against, and not just me personally, people close to me. My mother actually is Northern Irish, and in the 80s, and living in England, there was a big fear around the IRA, because the IRA were a terrorist group in Ireland, and there was a lot of activity at that time. So hearing a Northern Irish accent would worry some people and get some reactions that weren't so pleasant sometimes. And then obviously, I'm a Nigerian father, not obviously, but he was a student in the UK, and that's where he met my mum. And they together faced quite a few prejudice, and quite a lot of things happened to them. So I was experiencing that as a child. And then myself growing up feeling pretty much like I didn't fit in, like I didn't belong, because I didn't look like my dad and I didn't look like my mum. And honestly, I didn't look like the majority of my peers. So this is why this is so important to me, because I have an understanding from my experience, the kind of complexities and things that may influence me and may have caused beliefs and behaviors that limited me to a degree. And as I uncovered in the last few years, stopped me playing it big sometimes, whereas playing small. So that's the reason I chose this topic, and that's why it's so close to me. And it aligns with my mission and my vision for the work I do and the people I work with. And having worked in the corporate career, it became quite noticeable. There were few to non-women or minorities in senior executive C-suite roles. And I was first thinking, well, was it just my perception? Or was there something in this? And I certainly noticed, say, in the last 5 years, that things definitely started to improve in that space. But when I checked the research, the latest research, it shows that while women are represented as middle managers, so they're well represented there, and that's essentially what I was, numbers drop when making the jump to VP level, executive level. something like 36% of Fortune 500 companies have women and other minorities occupying board seats. So we've still got a way to go. And it's getting better, but there's a gap. And I believe that for the world to be fairer and happier for everyone, we need to have more diverse leadership. And I mean diversity of background, diversity of experiences, and diversity of thought. And not to mention the business benefits of diversity, which I won't go into, other than say, you know, they did the research and they found that the more organizations with the diversity at that level, they were more likely to be innovative and outperform the competitors. So for me, my passion and my vision is to, with my work, to help close that gap and see a big jump from 36% to 50% or even more women and other individuals from underrepresented groups, whether that be gender, ethnicity, sexuality, ability, really any individual who differs in any way from the majority of their peers, to see those individuals have a seat in all aspects of leadership in a variety of business sectors, communities, societies in our lifetime. So that's basically why this topic is here. And for me, the key to this is inside and outside of coaching. It's about promoting diversity. It's about doing the work on ourselves. It's about being an example for others. And it's about equity practices as well in the workplace or in your business. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. First, when I talk about equity practices, some people will think, well, what do you mean by that? And I really love this visual. I found it on Twitter, shared by a not-for-profit organization called Canadian Equality. And I looked at them up and they do quite a lot of great work. And as you can see, there's a picture of people watching a football match. And I say football because that's the real name for it. If you're from England, that's what it's called. So they're watching a football match. And you can see here the description of equality, same treatment. So everyone gets a crate to stand on. That reflects the same treatment. Okay? But equitable treatment means everyone is provided with what they need to succeed. So in this picture, you can see that the person that can see over the fence doesn't need anything else. The person has got two crates so they can see over the fence. And the person in the wheelchair has got a ramp because that's what they need. Okay? And that's how I like to explain the difference between equality and equity. That's my perspective on it. And I just thought this picture illustrated it really, really well. And there are a lot of organizations now investing in programs. You'll hear diversity, inclusivity, diversity, inclusion. You'll hear that quite a bit, especially if you work in these big multinational companies. However, women and other social, racial, and ethnic minorities still unrepresented. And the problem with that is there's the hurdles they need to overcome. And one of the biggest hurdles some women and other minorities face in tackling this gap is playing it big. Let's move on. So the rest of this talk, you'll understand what I mean by playing it big. You'll learn a little about the importance of growing a personal brand and how self-promotion is a key behavior in personal and professional life. Hopefully you'll understand why some people are more comfortable than others talking openly about their accomplishments. Because some people perceive this as arrogant or bragging or showing off. And I'll share some tools that, if applied, may help you and others develop the skill of self-promotion. So what I consider to be the 3 keys to playing it big is to grow, a growth mindset. And that's been talked about a lot already during the summit. It's to have a growth mindset, to be prepared to grow and help others grow too. To take action, because you can have all these ideas and all these great intentions, but if you're not prepared to take the action, you're not prepared to pay the price, then nothing will change. And the third is to get help. We all need help. We all need someone on our team And again, this has been a theme throughout the summit, people talking about who's on your team, who are you asking for help, who are you going to delegate to? That's even somebody on your team. So we all need help. And there's lots and lots of ways. I'm going to talk about the sweet spot there, the three keys like the sweet spot. But the purpose is to maximize our opportunities, whether we're a coach and a coaching business, whether we're a career, whether it, self-employed or employed. Maximizing our opportunities is to play big, but not just for ourselves, for others too. Because it doesn't have to be ourselves at the expense of others, or for others at the expense of ourselves. It doesn't have to be in a competitive way when you play big. I think that's something that some people feel that it has to be an all or nothing, when it really, really doesn't. So there's lots of ways you can do this. And I would love to go into way more and talk about every single one of these things. We don't have the time today. What I do in my resource for you, talk about some of these things in more information and give you some exercises to work around how you look at those. But I've just mentioned a couple. I talked about grow. I talked about knowing your why. Because to grow, you need to know why you're doing what you're doing. What does it mean to you? Connecting with your heart, like we talked about yesterday in Suzanne's talk, finding your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? What does it mean to you? What's it give you? That's one of the things for growing. And then the obvious ones are developing your skills, your attributes, your abilities, of course, as well. Taking action, self-promotion, I see as an action-taking activity. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. And then when you're getting help, building your networks is taking action and it's getting help, because the more people you're connected with, the more people you can influence, and the more people that are there to help you, and the more people that can inspire you. So there's lots of benefits to having networks. Get a mentor. I have a mentor. I have Andrew and others are my mentor. And a coach. I have a lot of coaches now, because you'll find things come up. When you move to that next level of growth, things will come up as you continue to grow and grow and grow. So I have a coach to work on those things that may come up from time to time when I'm starting something new that I haven't done before, and especially in the last couple of years where I'm growing my coaching business. But I'm going to talk about self-promotion mostly. Why is self-promotion so important? Because it helps you to develop your own story, helps you to share your unique value, and to own your talent, to celebrate your achievements and promote your accomplishments. And they're all part of playing big. Because accomplishments do not speak for themselves. It is important to understand, because we can never assume what others do or do not know about us. And this is really evident to me. It's something that I had an issue with at some point in my corporate career. When I was interviewing people, and they usually were women, because that industry attracted a lot of women, and they struggled to articulate what they did when we interviewed them, what their contribution was to projects. And they often referred to we as a team. We did this and we did this and we did this, and that's brilliant, because we want to see that they're a team player. But they really struggle to talk about their unique contribution as an individual. And that was a big aha for me, because I realized I used to do the same thing. And now I had the job of trying to select the candidate based on what they could contribute. Yet sometimes by the end of an interview, I had no idea what they specifically could contribute themselves. So that was one of the things. And there is research to show that actually women are socialized to highly value communal goals, such as the goal to help others and connect with others. Women are therefore expected to be selfless, which is one of the components of modesty. And the implication then is, because of these modesty norm pressures, women to advocate for rewards for other people. They're happy to do that, but not for themselves. That's just something I pulled out of the research to show this. And also to highlight that being marginalized can mean you are more likely to experience limiting beliefs, imposter syndrome as well. I'll talk about that a bit more. But whether you regard yourself as a minority or not, we can all play it big. And I'll just put in the chat, do you find it difficult to talk about your achievements out loud? Just type in the chat, yes, no. Curious, how do you find talking about your achievements out loud? Yeah, sometimes, yeah. No issues anymore, great, no. So a mixed bag there. But it's important to realize that talking about accomplishments is a skill. It's a muscle that needs flexing to be developed and strengthened over time. And it's okay to play around with this skill, and you won't always get it right, and it might even feel odd, strange. But you can look for role models. We talked about mentors to mimic and learn from. And over time, look at your natural voice. I know myself from my childhood and growing up that I used to feel like this was showing off if I openly shared that, you know, no one likes to show off. That was kind of a voice I had in my head. So no matter what you accomplished, that was good, but you didn't need to talk about it openly because nobody likes to show off. And you make other people feel bad. So this is kind of the thoughts that you don't realize why you behave the way you behave, or why I did anyway, that might be going on. But the fact is, it's not bragging if it's based on facts. I mean, if you worked on a project or you contributed to its success, you accomplished a goal or made a difference in some way, then why shouldn't you talk about it? Not only may that help you with your success in your career, your progression, but open up new opportunities or inspire others. And like you hear these TED Talks, people talking about what they've accomplished. They might have written a book, might have done some research. Usually they're quite inspiring, these talks, and they're talking about what they've accomplished and what they bring into the world. And they inspire people. So now you've heard about why this is so important. We're going to start flexing those muscles. And I want you to think about all the reasons why you are absolutely fabulous. And you're going to be writing them down in the form of statements. Now, you can do this in the workbook or not, you can just write it down. So I want you to write down, I am absolutely fabulous because, and remember, it's not bragging, it's based on facts. And I want you to think about everything that you've experienced in life, personal, professional, every single step that's brought you to where you are today, because you have plenty to feel proud about. So do it. Nothing too big, nothing too small. Focus on what you have done or are proud of, as opposed to things like attributes like, I'm absolutely fabulous because I have great hair. I know I have great hair, but that's not one of the things that I consider makes me absolutely fabulous. So I want you to treat it like a journaling exercise and just write down a couple of things. And feel free to share in the chat and see how that feels. And does anybody want to share some of these? I am absolutely fabulous because I have a great sense of humor. Absolutely. I am absolutely fabulous. I can now stand up and teach in front of a large group of people. I am absolutely fabulous because I can now share my personal story of compassion and integrity. Absolutely. I am absolutely fabulous is my trade. Oh, okay, Joe. I am absolutely fabulous because I take responsibility for my life, my choices, and my growth. Great. I'm absolutely fabulous because I love to serve from my authentic self. Great. I love. Great. So yeah, and that's one of the examples I usually give. I'm absolutely fabulous because I moved to another country alone, not knowing anyone, and built a life here and built friendships and support here. And become someone whose shoulders others can stand on. Oh, wonderful. I love that. I love those. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. So I do this in a bigger workshop on self-promotion. And these are questions you can ask yourself. How did it feel to write it down? You write it down, was it easy to write? Did it flow? Or was it easy to think of personal things? Or was it easy to think of professional things? Or the other way around? And how did it feel to share? Or did you share? Were you reluctant to share in the chat? Another thing to think about is, how do you support others who promote themselves openly? And in the past, have you felt comfortable openly sharing your achievements in the workplace or in your personal life? I can see some people there better at supporting others than doing it for myself. Yeah. And this is something I invite you to think about a bit more and to take that away. But what I wanted to do with this exercise is just create some awareness, because all change starts with awareness. And realize that some people struggle with this concept of self-promotion because of sometimes cultural expectations, social expectations, parental upbringing or caregivers, whoever the caregivers were, the society we grow up in. All people struggle with different reasons why it's not so easy for them to do. And that's why advocacy is so important, and how we can all play a part and how we can all play big. And looking at these limiting beliefs, because there's two sides to these limiting beliefs. There's some that may be preventing you from playing it big, preventing you from sharing accomplishments openly. But there's some that might be why some people may brag, why some people may have that competitive way of sharing accomplishments. But it doesn't mean to say that sharing your accomplishments has to be competitive or has to be bragging. And I'll say it again, it's not bragging if it's based on facts. And if coaching can help you clear this stuff, then it becomes a lot easier to share who you are with the world, what your unique value is, what you have to offer. And it's very important for self-employed people. And Pip talks about you have to do your marketing and sales, but you have to show who you are, because people want to know who they're working with. And people want to know what your values are, what your passions are, what you believe in, not just you've trained in X, Y, and Z. I mean, that is important too. But who are you? Who is Tracy Gandy? Who is Andrew Law? And that comes with self-promotion. They have to do it. To share the unique you with the world, and whether that's in the workplace or in your business, it helps you grow your career, and it can help inspire others too. So how can we get more comfortable with this? And like I said, self-promotion, like any skill, requires practice. So here are some exercises to help you. Today is just a starting point on your journey. you need to keep actively working on the skill set, building your muscle. Now, these are just some examples, and there's some more in the resource that I share that you can download. These are just a few examples, and I'm just going to talk about my favorite one. My favorite one is the I am fab jar. So every time you do something and you're proud of it, or something that you think is great, you've accomplished something, I want you can write it on a piece of paper, you can put it in a jar in your home, and then when you're feeling a bit low, having a bad day, take it out, have a read, remind yourself why you are absolutely fabulous. That's just one of my favorites, but there's a few. And if you have any ways of doing this, self-promoting in any way, big or small, please feel free to share, because I compile a list of ideas that I get from other people, and then I can share it with others. So to get into the habit of regularly sharing your achievements or accomplishments that you're proud of, think of ways that you can do this on a regular basis. That's what I suggest. But advocacy is also important, like I mentioned. And Lauren mentioned yesterday in her talk that influencing others in our micro world helps other people. And actually, I'm just going to go back to that slide because I think there was advocacy. No, there wasn't. There was some advocacy tips as well, because that's really important, helping others transform too. One of the things I used to do in the corporate world, I'll just share this one, is in a team of people, and all my team was international, and a lot of my team was in Asia, and we're all connecting on Zoom often. And if we had to work through a particular problem or an opinion, sometimes there's certain people that won't share their opinion, not comfortable sharing their ideas. So one of the techniques I used to use, we called a round table. And how that worked was, in advance, you would send the item or the topic you wanted people's opinions on or recommendations on. Send it in advance with the agenda. And then during the meeting, you'd have a visual round table, everybody's picture. And then everybody would have 3 minutes to give their ideas that they've already thought about. And they'd take turns and they would give their input, and then they say, what do you think? And go to the next person. And that person would give their example, and they say, and what do you think? And you go to the next person. And that's just one of the ways that people managers can be inclusive and include everyone. So that's one idea, and there's some more in my handout that I give you. So moving on to the next slide. So if you're a person in majority in an audience where you are gathered, there are things you can do to lend a voice and a volume to those who are less well represented. And that was one example. So in my free resource, top 10 tips for playing it big for yourself and others, I provide a range of tips, advocating for others, as well as flexing that self-promoting muscle. And you can download that from the link that I'm going to show you. But I just wanted to finish on this picture again, because you see there's a third picture here. The barrier is completely gone. And that would be great. And I think as a society, that's where we need to be heading. It takes outside and inside and working on ourselves as well. But I would add a fourth picture. When I was looking at this, I would add a fourth picture, showing the same people actually sat in the stadium, even in box seats, having paid for the tickets to watch the game, because they have looked within to overcome and challenge disempowering cultural and societal norms, and have become empowered to find the resources they need to play it big. They have overcome personal barriers that are a result of growing up or finding themselves in different circumstances. And that would be what I would add there. I hope you've enjoyed our time together. It was my hope that you would leave this talk, and even this whole summit, more curious, self-aware, feeling inspired to know more, to do more, and inspire others. So thank you for your attention and engagement.
Thank you very much, Tracy. And I can see you've got the link to your free resource on the screen. So anyone, if you want to just use your phone, you can use your phone to just capture the QR code. And that's also available in the trace in the Circle community. So we've got some really awesome feedback here, Tracy, fantastic ideas to advocate. And also there was a lot of discussion about self-promotion and the purpose for self-promotion. Is it for bragging, or is it to inspire others to come along on the journey? So is it bragging or rallying? Yeah, and I love this idea that we are rallying people, like-minded people, to come along with us on this journey. Yeah, so beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I love that the AFAB jar as well. That might be an interesting one as we go through life's ups and downs. You know, especially in the times of down, if we can just reach into an AFAB jar, grab a piece of paper, read it, and get that little boost of energy, yeah, to tackle the next test, trial, or tribulation. So thank you very much, Tracy. Really appreciate it. If people have any more questions, you can chuck it in the, pop it in the chat box. Yeah, thank you, Tracy. That concludes our first 2 sessions for today.